You're just funny. It's funny, the way you tell the story and everything.
Funny how?
Come here, though. Yeah, he's crazy, see? Who are you?
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
Are you ready?
Kind of the studio. Obviously, I used to have people in at least once a week, but now it's with this social distancing. I've been doing all my podcasts on Zoom, and I'm kind of digging it because, I've turned down probably 25 people since I've started my podcast just because they don't live in Tampa, and I usually like people to come here so that way I could video it and all that shit here. And after all this happened, I'm like, I've done more podcasts now through Zoom.
Wow.
Just because it's super easy. I mean, you send them the link and Zoom records it. You can record the video and audio, and then I just link it up, and I edit it together, edit in my theme music and stuff. So it's
That is pretty cool. Yeah, it's nice to find new mediums that work just as effectively.
yeah, seriously. So it looks like you got your own mic set up there. Is that just for? Because I noticed you went Instagram Live a couple times or Facebook Live a couple times. Is that?
I haven't posted in a while because I've been kind of working. Well, actually, I was sick for like 2 weeks, and then I kind of just stopped posting. But yeah, I have my own Facebook page and Instagram, and I was posting pretty much every day. Yeah, I haven't posted in a while, but I already have some plans to get back into it. I have some stuff saved up too to kind of do that. But I'm working on like a little course right now too. So I kind of want to time the launch of that with some of the content.
Yeah, no, it's a good call.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man.
Great.
For people that don't know, obviously we met through a friend of a friend. Never met in person, so this is kind of cool. We get a chance to do this. But the one thing I noticed in your channel in particular is you're definitely into. I hate the word veganism. I'm even rocking my vegan shirt for you.
Look at that. That's nice.
But yeah,
awesome.
so what kind of made you want to get into the plant-based diet? Have you been vegan a long time, your whole life? Give us a little backstory on maybe yourself and.
Yeah. I think it's great that you're wearing the vegan shirt. I myself don't typically sport too much of that unless Kayla has made it, and then I'll usually wear her shirts and stuff. But what actually got me into it was Kayla, and it was kind of cool. She's been wanting to go vegan for a while. This was about 2.5 years ago. So to answer that question, been doing the plant-based diet for 2.5 years. Meaning no eggs, no fish. Our family members always ask, "Oh, does that mean you eat fish?" No. So plant-based 100% for 2.5 years. Before that, we were vegetarian for a year. And so that's how come, like, I'm a lot more like relaxed about it, not like pushing on people. If people want to know about it, they want recipes or stuff, I'll help them out. But I'm not, the stereotypical vegan, militaristic vegan, because I knew that, like, for most of my life, I ate meat. And for mostly the vegetarian phase was because of, for me personally, some spiritual stuff. So spirituality and the practice of it and the work that I've done in my life has been a major highlight throughout my entire life. And through some different things that I was doing and studying and working with, I started to realize that the vegetarian diet was something that was more conducive for meditation, and entering into those higher vibrational states.
And why is that, you think?
So there's some things that have been, there's a lot of studies on things, but specifically when it comes to consciousness and what what you'll hear from the yogis and the spiritual masters, and you'll even hear people kind of just say this in passing who have a general feel, is that when you eat, meat, when you eat the flesh of another creature, it kind of lowers your own personal vibration, which some people, will say, "Oh man, I'm kind of feeling a little airy," and so they'll have some meat and they feel like grounded. They'll say things like that. There's, of course, much more effective ways to ground yourself than eating a piece of meat. But there's a lot of other things to deal with it on subtler aspects. So, for example, on an energetic aspect, when you consume an animal, you're not just consuming, its flesh and all the nutrients and things that might have been in it, but you're also consuming on a physical level, you're still consuming the hormones and the chemicals and stuff that were going through it at the time of its life and its death. And on an energetic level, you're consuming whatever sorts of things that were entering into that being. And, that's where it gets a little esoteric, in
Sure.
the conversation there. But through different personal experiences with, I guess I'll share here, it's no mystery to you. I've been to many different ceremonies, things like that. And through certain visionary experiences and deep meditative experiences, I could experience directly certain pieces of that knowledge and that experience. Where after those experiences, there was one time I remember eating like a burger or whatever, and I ate it. And it's going to sound weird to some people, but when you're in these higher states of consciousness and you can feel into, it's like an intuitive experience. I ate into that burger and I could like feel, I could feel like the suffering of that animal. I could feel it wasn't a good thing. And it wasn't like, a nice quality piece of meat either, it was like
Sure.
a crappy burger from somewhere too. So even worse. Right.
Right.
So
and
I really had,
and sorry, not to interrupt you, but
no,
people that are rolling their eyes right now, just so you know, because I'm
yeah.
a strong believer in that as well. I haven't delved a lot more into the spirituality of things, but if you think it's far fetched, just imagine, if everyone has that feeling sometimes when it's late at night and you're half asleep and maybe you have to get up and go to the restroom or something like that, and you feel like maybe there's something there. There isn't, of course, but your body's in kind of a weird half awake, half sleep state. And, you might be scared about something, or, it feels like someone's there with you. That's just a feeling that you have. And it's very similar, I would imagine, to what you feel, to where it's a very deep connection to what's happening around you, even though it's physically not there, but there's something that's going on inside of you, right? That you feel that.
Right. Yeah. And through studies too, because for me, I enjoy remaining more on the skeptical side. Like I've
Sure.
experienced states of consciousness that most people haven't, and some of the stories are just are wild. Like I share some of them with very few friends who kind of have had those experiences, because if you do that, then they can kind of have better understanding. But yeah, I'll hear stories of people saying these wild things, and I'll still remain skeptical. And it's just because I remain skeptical of my own self too, because you want to do that. I see, a lot of people get into this world that can seem quite wiggly and kind of lose themselves. And so it's important to remain,
In
have that
reality.
balance of grounded in this three-dimensional reality, and also able to perceive those other realities as well. So one of the things that I enjoy doing as well is studying the mind. Studying, NLP is one of the things that I have studied quite a bit, which is neuro-linguistic programming, and it's how to affect how your neurology is affected by your linguistic patterns, your language patterns. So we all have a voice that kind of talks inside of our head, and you'll hear people say certain phrases over and over. And if you pay attention to this, you'll say it's no wonder they're experiencing those things in their life. If you're always saying, I'm tired, when you arrive at home after a long day of work, you're just always going to be tired when you arrive home after work, even if it wasn't a hard day. So there's these little things like that that are interesting. And so I can also explain that experience from that standpoint, where, eating that burger and feeling that sensation could also have been a trigger brought up from an unconscious pattern that I learned through those visionary experiences. So maybe it wasn't like I was still in that like intuitive experience, but had learned to experience that. So there's a lot of interesting dynamics here. But
Yeah,
kind
that's
of
great.
coming back to the question at hand too is the process of going vegan. So that was kind of my own experience of going of going from meat to vegetarian diet. And then Kayla had come and she was like, I really want to go vegan. For her, it was a lot about the animals, compassion towards the animals. She absolutely loves them. She was a vet tech for many, many, many years. And so I remember we were out on our porch and she said, I've been really wanting to do this, but it's tough. And I don't really know how to or when to. And so we were staying up there. I said, okay, we're vegan. And like, I'm vegan. I'll go vegan with you. And you're like, you're serious? I'm like, yes, right now, like, we're vegan. So like, as of now, we eat just vegan food. And kind of coming back to that NLP stuff is change can be that fast. Change can be that easy. And sometimes we're taught throughout most of our life, most of us are, that change is hard and arduous and it takes a long time, but it doesn't have to. And when you understand that it doesn't have to, you can make changes that fast.
Absolutely.
So anyways, that's kind of how it occurred. She really wanted to go vegan. I didn't have a huge desire to, but
Of course, but just like anything else, the girls in our life make the decisions for us. So
exactly. And I've loved it. I mean, I feel fantastic. I got my blood work done a year after that decision because I had to for a life insurance policy that I was getting. And my blood work was flawless. So there's a whole section of people coming out now with like a carnivore diet, which is fantastic. I think there's science and stuff that they're figuring out. We'll see long term how it turns out. Maybe it's good, maybe not. I don't know. I'm open to seeing what they think. Won't influence my decision. But one of the conversations is that vegans are deficient in nutrients and vitamins, and they have to do lots of supplementation, blah, blah, blah. I take a multivitamin and I eat healthy food, and that's really it. I don't do anything crazy. And my blood work was flawless, and I got the highest level of super rated for the life insurance policy because of that. And so,
oh wow,
the diet worked. It worked and works well for me. I still have a lot of energy.
Yeah,
and enjoy it.
And like you said, I mean, the change is the big thing to where I think people are just scared of change. It's no different than any other type of I hate using the word diet as well, just because it's all about eating right. But if you go from eating nothing but fast food and having Starbucks every day, it might be hard to get away from Starbucks and start cooking at home. That's a sign of change. So it's and to your point, earlier when you talked about when you're ingesting the animal, I strongly believe that I probably wouldn't be vegan if we lived 50 years ago. Like if we lived in that lifetime, right? Like our parents' lifetime, because, I mean, obviously farming is a lot different. We can go into a whole subject of that because I know you guys are pretty knowledgeable on that stuff. But, I think to your point about ingesting those animals and the suffering they go through is a lot different than what it was when, we used to just take them out with a bow and arrow and cook them over an open flame, right? So, sometimes these animals back then would, the farmers would actually farm the animals themselves and then slaughter the animals and use it with their family. And they would do it in a very humane way. And, now we have such a high demand of meat that we have to, farm the way we do. I don't necessarily hate on the people that do factory farming and things like that, because I understand that they have to because they need to make money. But they're stuck in this mode of they have to now because that's the industry that we're in. But we can easily change that. And if you want to continue to eat meat, there are other ways to eat it besides doing that. So I think there has to be a lot of education around that as well, because I don't think the meat would be as bad if we didn't treat the animals as bad as we do, right? And, I think that's kind of what you're saying is, it's not gonna influence my decision because I personally enjoy being vegan as well, and occasionally I'll partake in like a couple eggs or something like that.
Okay.
But it's been tough for me. I went about 2 years of just straight plant-based. And my wife tried it for about 6 months, and she did good. And she still doesn't do any meat, but occasionally she likes to have her eggs. And And when I see her do that, I'm like, all right, I could, because I've been obsessed with Just Egg. I don't know if you ever tried
Just egg.
Just.
Okay, I have tried it. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's good. I enjoy it very much, but when I cook food, it's like I can cook her a couple fried eggs, and then I have to do a separate skillet for Just. It's like I guess I'll just have a fried egg. So, but are you guys
Right.
so you're pretty much, I mean, full plant-based, right? Like do you even do, I mean, do you do honey? Do you not even do that? I
Yeah.
mean, how?
So yeah, that's a point of controversy with
Sure.
some vegans, but I've done honey from day one, and
Sure.
you know, yeah, there's a lot of arguments for and against, and for me, I attempt as much as possible to eat like the highest quality, like local honey. I
Sure.
know, I can't control the practices and stuff like that, but yeah, it's not something that I stopped doing.
Yeah.
Or there's certain, with everything, there's a certain extreme that once you go there, is there's no end to how
Of
insane you
course.
can get. I mean, like, you can't live without the living beings inside of your body, the microorganisms. And so what, like, are you
Yeah.
exploiting them to, it can get pretty wild. So yeah, I enjoy honey too. And
Yeah. Well,
for
it's great
me,
for
I like it.
allergies too. You
Exactly.
know?
I was just going
Yeah.
to bring that up.
Yeah.
That's one of the big reasons I take honey, especially now. Florida is coming. Actually, we had a weird season, so my allergies were super bad about 2 or 3 weeks ago, because it got really, really warm, and so the pollen was coating all of our cars every
Yeah.
morning, and so my allergies were super bad. And honey kind of helps with a
Yeah.
combination of that and pills.
Yeah. Do you just normally do like a scoop in the morning, a scoop of honey, or you doing some tea or anything like that?
Yeah, I do it like in some tea. I'll do some yerba mate and have some
Nice.
honey. It's a
Very
good
cool.
good combination.
Yeah, man. And then as far as like food, when you guys are eating plant-based, you try to cook a lot of things yourself, or do you partake in Beyond Meat or Impossible Meat, anything like that? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I kind of, yeah, I used to eat a lot more of that stuff. I try to
Mm.
not eat as much just because it's still processed food. And so I attempt as much as possible to eat just like cooked food, unprocessed. Like, I'll do rice and beans and different things like that. Occasionally I'll have a Beyond Burger, or I'll make a Beyond Burger. Occasionally some Beyond the sausages, I'll make like some spaghetti with those sausages,
There
which
you
is
go.
pretty delicious. But where is it? Oh, there it is. So for me, my weakness is Chipotle.
Nice.
Is I mean, it's not necessarily weakness. It's still pretty decent food. But like, when I'm working, usually during the week, I'll get Chipotle, because when I'm working hard, it's just the fast thing. And you can
Oh
get
yeah, man.
sofritas and beans, and you can really protein up. But
Yeah. No,
but
it's
yeah,
great.
I do like cooking too.
Yeah, yeah. Cooking is great, but man, it's I mean, I don't think it's more time consuming being vegan, but it's definitely I've realized just like the last year and a half where I'm really getting into it is
Right.
washing the vegetables, and I juice a lot now, and
Oh,
meal
okay.
prep, and you have to be careful because it is all fresh and plant based, but it's not
Hmm.
like hamburger meat where you can just keep in the freezer and then
Yeah.
crack it open anytime you want. So you really have to, like, when you buy it, you got to eat it within a few days. So
Yeah,
um
it's true.
that to me is a big challenge, but I'm enjoying it. I feel a lot more healthy, and I still have plenty of energy. My levels and everything are fine, and testosterone levels fine, and
Yeah.
blood pressure's incredible. And I'm 35 next week, so
Oh, awesome.
um, yeah, nothing so far. Knock on wood, but yeah, there's definitely the carnivore diet. I got a couple buddies that tried that, and of course they talk very highly of it. Of course
Hmm.
they do, because all you're eating is salt and meat. I mean, how could it be
Yeah, it's
bad,
all
right?
meat, avocados.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, you're right. The long term effects, I think, is going to be the one thing that people need to look at.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm curious. And the other thing too is, so one of the reasons I even know about it is because being in the quarantine, I couldn't go to the gym anymore, and so I was out of the gym for like 3+ weeks, and I'm like, I'm not
yeah,
feeling good, like, about my body, about anything. And so I needed something, and so I actually got I got the X3 program, or the bands and the the
Oh
bar
yeah.
and stuff. I've been on that for 6 weeks now. I love that. And so a lot of the
Awesome.
guys in there are doing the carnivore diet because it's like protein, it's like all
Yeah.
that stuff. And I've gained 5 pounds, which 5 pounds, 4 to 5 pounds of muscle mass, because I'm not really like changing my diet or anything. And
Right.
I've been able. It's like this whole philosophy about, oh, vegans aren't going to be able to like build muscle and get bigger and stronger, is like it's totally not true.
Right.
Because I just been working out and using the same program they are and eating
Well,
vegan.
yeah, and people don't, understand that. I mean, protein's the thing that, you need, right, to
Yeah,
build muscle. And I mean, plants have plenty of protein. It's just
yeah,
like you said it earlier, is people aren't used to change, and we're so used to having, Franken beans at the house,
Frank
and
beans.
steaks and picking the blankets and all this fast
Yeah,
food, and all these burgers that we used to eat as kids. So we always think to ourselves that that's what we have to have, right? Because our parents gave it to us, so it's got to be right.
yeah,
But they didn't know any better, and studies keep coming out. And I definitely think this quarantine and this lockdown has really opened up the eyes of a lot of people about how animals are being raised and farmed and sold,
hmm,
right? Because this is another pandemic coming from wet markets allegedly, and I think it's
allegedly.
definitely
Yeah.
allegedly. Yeah, depends on what station, I guess, you
Yeah,
listen to.
exactly. Depends on which video you watched last night.
That's right. But
Changes every day.
yeah, this has been wild. How are you guys handling the lockdown? Are you still working? You work from
Yeah,
home, or?
I was really fortunate to not really be impacted by it, especially job wise. I mean, I work from home, so this is my office. Really, I mean, I have my
Yeah.
computer and set up here. So I had worked from home before, so nothing changed there. And you know, being in Orlando, being in Florida, really, but specifically like Orlando, probably Tampa too. I
Mhm.
think anywhere other than Miami, really. We were fortunate not to be too strictly locked down. So the only thing that really changed for us is we just weren't able to go out to eat as much.
Right.
But besides that, I hadn't really done more than go to the beach or
Sure.
whatever. But even some of the like Lou Gardens wasn't even close. So if you want to go walk through the gardens,
Oh,
you
really?
could.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
I,
cool.
I didn't know. I didn't know though until I saw their emails. Like, we haven't closed this whole time, but just to let you know, like, oh, we could have gone there. It's great.
Yeah, we
So
used to
yeah,
do we used to do those pull up movies all the time. I don't know if they still do
pull up
that.
movies at Lou Gardens.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm not sure. I bet they do though, especially
yeah. Like,
now.
yeah. That's crazy though.
Yeah. So yeah, it wasn't too bad for us. For me, it was especially now, it's like I just feel bad for the people who are in those situations where it's tough. There's a lot of interesting things going
Yeah.
on, and like my family lives in Michigan, and so the contrast, and I that's where I grew up.
Hmm.
That's where I was born and grew up. So the contrast. I live in Florida now, and they're in Michigan. That's like the biggest extreme, the total different spectrum of like lockdown versus opening.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to hear what's going on, and they're still kind of locked up.
Yeah, it's wild. And how do you feel about things starting to open up? I think the governor just put something out saying that gyms are going to open up Monday
Yeah,
in Florida.
yeah, and because of my new program, I don't really care because I was
Yeah.
just going to keep working out at home. But yeah, I'm happy that things are opening up. It's great to see people too. Like, just when I go out and go to the grocery store, even, you just see a lot more people kind of starting to get active and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Not feeling so
mingling.
scared.
Yeah, that's the big thing, I think, is just getting people back to normal, and getting some endorphins going, and getting
Yeah,
some
yeah,
getting some vitamin D outside, and
exactly.
and we used to do, and we still do, but we're doing walks here and there, through the lockdown, and
Okay,
um
cool.
to your point, we typically didn't really go out anyway. If
Mhm.
anything, I probably have more money in my bank account than I ever
Me
have.
too. I'm like,
So
wow, I saved so much from not going to restaurants.
yeah, so I mean, people are, God forbid if they lost their job, and that's horrible. But if you didn't
Yeah.
lose your job and you're still getting paid, it's kind of a good thing because it really
Mhm.
made us think to ourselves what we really need in life, and we don't really need, you know, to go out and spend a lot of money. I mean, I appreciate. I got a couple buddies um, that own restaurants and bars. Some are in Orlando. Like, shout out
Mhm.
to Gnarly Barley. I don't know if you've ever been to Gnarly Barley.
I haven't.
Um, Gnarly's good. That's on South Orange Avenue, and
Cool.
GB's is in Winter Park. And so I got guys that own restaurants, and I don't want people not to go out to dinner. But at the end of
Yeah.
the day, I think it's pretty important that we understand you should think of it like a treat.
Yeah.
We sometimes we get caught in the minutia of going to work, getting out at 5 o'clock, going to get a drink, spending 40, $50, but you're 32 years old and you still live with your parents. I mean, you need to really start to identify what's important in life. So
Yeah.
this definitely opened up my eyes to an extent, for sure, on a lot of things.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And that was really interesting too. Is like I so being in my position, I didn't really see much happen, at least in the first few weeks, as far as job loss stuff. I saw posts on Facebook and people were, like news articles and stuff. But then when I started seeing posts from people who are my friends who I know, losing jobs, getting laid off, it's like, oh my gosh, like,
Yeah.
and some of these people were working with their companies for decades. So, it's a tough thing you know, to see and to experience and go, man, I don't even know what to do for those
Yeah.
people. But I hope that with us reopening, that many of those companies will start to, bring people back and say like, okay, like we freaked out because we had to, but really we're going to be okay and we can afford to pay you guys. That's
Yeah,
what I'm
maybe
hoping.
even, if I told my buddy that owns these spots, I was like, if there's any time to create awareness for delivery and pickup,
Yeah.
I mean, we always think to ourselves like Chinese food and pizza are the only delivery spots. And, of course, Uber Eats and all that stuff. But like, if you're a local business, I mean, my first thought would be I need to hire like 10 people and I
Yeah.
need to have like a delivery department
Hmm.
at every single restaurant instead of doing these third party Uber Eats that are multi-billion-dollar companies.
Yeah.
The local person, because you're bringing on 10 people at every restaurant,
Yeah.
every bar, or whatever, and it's helping out the economy. It's keeping things local, and it's not monopolizing everything to just Uber Eats and DoorDash.
Hmm.
So
It's a cool
um,
idea. Yeah.
yeah, hopefully you're right. Hopefully things will start piking up again, but it's
Hmm.
getting there. It's getting there. I'm a
Yeah.
little, I'm a little worried that we're going a little bit too fast. Um,
Okay. Interesting.
I mean, it's hit or miss for me because again,
Mhm.
I always work from home too. I've worked from home for 4 years, so I don't really mind too much about everything that's going on. I'm just a little worried that we're not looking at everything else and we're not saying to ourselves, okay, 25% of restaurants or 25% capacity is this week, and
Mhm.
next week is 50%. So
Right.
have we looked at everything that we need to look at in Florida, and all the
Yeah.
states? Is testing ramping up? Because last I looked, testing has been the same. So if I go to a restaurant, how do I know that all those employees are getting tested and all those other people are getting tested? We went to go pick up our food last night, and we looked at a couple of these restaurants that they opened up outside, which is good
Mhm.
instead of inside. But
Right. Yeah.
the tables weren't 6 feet apart. The servers weren't wearing masks, and they're all outside. And I'm just like, wait a minute, are we just like going back to normal? Is this,
Yeah.
it's like either everybody makes the adjustments or no one should. Like let's just
Mhm.
because if we're gonna screw things up, let's just do it big. If we're gonna
Let's just
screw
do
it
it
up,
all at once
let's
and
just do it
get it
right.
over.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
yeah, it's interesting too because there's so many factors that we don't know too. Like
still so new, right?
how bad, yeah, like how bad really was it? And I like it's like the dust hasn't even settled and the real information hasn't even come in. They've been changed. They cut the death count in half at one point on 2 different websites. And so, we don't even know what information to rely on at this point. So it's kind of like one of those things where I think it was such a new thing for the entire world that no one really knew what to do. So they pushed the shutdown button and like shut it off, just stop
Yeah.
everything, hoping that would work. And, it may have helped to do some,
Yeah.
curbing of the virus spreading, but, it hurts some other things too. So we'll see.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely hurt the economy for sure, and people are
Yeah.
shook. So, and how do you feel about its origin? I mean, do you think that this is something that could have been avoided, this COVID, or what's your whole
Well,
thought process? There's a
I'm
lot of
I'm
stuff
not
out
a
there, but
doctor or a scientist,
of
and
course,
so I can't make an intelligent call on that. But I looked at a lot of things on both sides, because how I like to look at things too is, and this is something that a lot of people need to understand and get good at, especially with social media, is, I saw one side where it's showing the official report, right? There's the official report. And then on the others, and no one, some people believed it, they just went with it, but a lot of people rejected it fiercely. And those same people rejecting it hardcore went to the other extreme, where you see, some of the things about 5G killing bushes on one side and the other side's green. It's like, it's just
yeah,
as easy to doctor a photo like that and spray a whole bunch of weed killer on I just think
right,
of these things and like, you can't believe everything you see on the internet both ways. And so, just kind of taking everything with a grain of salt, and then also just kind of spinning it in my own brain and using my own common sense, is it seems peculiar, some of the origin stories about, where it may or may not have come from. To me, it seems just as likely that it accidentally leaked from a lab as it might have come from a market. Like those are not, the one's not better of a story to me at this point than another. And so I think that anything that comes out like that is worth investigating. Is like,
totally,
the word "I don't know" is a good phrase to keep until you really, really do know, and it's
right.
cross-checked and double-checked, and we really know. So I guess that's about all I can say about it.
No, no, I mean that's a great way to put it, because I always have these conversations with friends, and they seem so with a lot of topics, not just with this, but they seem very set into one opinion or something that's
Yeah.
from the outside, whether it's a news source, something like that. And not that there's anything wrong with that, because it could be true, but to your point, that's my favorite word is I don't know.
I don't
Um,
know.
I don't know. I usually say I don't know, but I'd love to find out.
Yeah.
And I won't really back it until I find out for sure. And I think even if there are all these different publications out there, and you do hear something coming from a lab, you're like, I have a buddy that believes in that, and I'm like, yeah, that could be true, yeah, for sure. And then I go, but you think it could be possible that maybe it just came from a wet market and it was brought in by animals? He goes, no way. I go, no way though? Like you're 100% sure? Like how do you know that? Well, because of this and this. And I go, yeah, but are those true? Like we don't really know.
Yeah.
So until we know, and I think that's the unfortunate part about this whole situation is not only will we probably never find out, but
True.
you know,
It's possible.
but who will actually do the research, and then how will it come to light, and who's going to bring it
Hmm.
to light, and when it does come to light, are we even going to believe it? That's
Yeah. And that's the other thing. I think, like, really looking at it from that higher up perspective too, is seeing this whole thing, being in it can seem scary and create a lot of anxiety and stress, but there's a lot of things that are also happening. You can see literally in positive ways, but you can also see, at least from what I've learned from different news stories and things and people posting, is like, I've never seen so many different doctors from different places, talking about these things and thinking about these things and spreading different messages and informations about treatments that are working, treatments, false news. So like, there's a lot of noise, but we can see that this noise is actually a good thing, because it's kind of like, you know, the river was flowing, it was just flowing straight, and then somebody put a dam in front of it and stirred up all the sediment, and now it's all cloudy. It's kind of messy, but at least we now know there's questions to be asked. And so I'm glad that there are people asking those questions and pursuing those paths, because like you said, a lot of things in the world just kind of happened without us knowing. At this point, now everyone's watching, everyone's paying attention. And if something seems fishy, not everyone, but a lot of people are going to go say, hey, what's that? So we find that more corruption and more sketchy things are starting to come to the surface. And I think that's overall in the long term a good thing.
I agree completely. Yeah, especially, not just with this topic, but just in general. I mean, social media, thank goodness we have it, because I think without it, we wouldn't know about a lot of this corruption that's been going on in the higher ups, not just in politics, but, the food
Right.
industry and, the
Yeah.
CDC and some things that came to light. So it's super interesting to see all these different sides, and, most of it, I would say, makes a lot of sense, to where it's like, okay, well, very similar to the FDA, how they shoved, what we should be eating in the lunchroom, kids, where it was like, this was the food pyramid, this was the correct way to eat.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And they shoved that down our throat, literally, and said, hey, you should be drinking milk. And then we turns out that the milk industry was behind this. Right. And then,
Yeah.
You talk about cigarettes and how that got pushed through propaganda and all that. It's like,
Crazy.
so there is a pattern emerging almost, right? But social media is bringing everything kind of to light. It is a very interesting time, because I think in the next, 2-3 years, we're really going to uncover some wild stuff. I think
Yeah.
it's just only starting,
It's a purification, right? In order to have the next phase of things be working well, we need to clean out the mess. When you do a juice fast in your body, you do the juice fast, you clean out all the crap, and then you've got a nice clean body to work with afterwards.
That's right. And then you got tons of energy and you're ready to rock and roll.
You got energy. Don't eat a big old pizza right after you've done your juice fast. Not a good idea.
That's right. Do you do a lot of juicing, or you try to?
No, I used to, and then I don't have a juicer anymore. We borrowed one from a friend, and then they wanted it back. This is a while ago, and I just never got back around to buying a juicer. So
I'm hooked on it, man, because I'm a big believer in keeping the body clean, especially with I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease about 5 years ago.
Okay.
And yeah, they never tell you this, of course. It's only medication they want you to take, but all the research I did is just keeping the body, as clean as you possibly can. Helps with inflammation, helps with, your immune system. I mean, the list goes on and on, but I'm a big juicer. I probably juice about twice a week, I would say.
Oh, okay. That's great. And when you say you juice twice a week, do you drink juice the whole day, throughout the whole day, or okay?
Yeah. Usually 6 to 7 bottles of maybe 12 ounces.
Okay.
Yeah, give or take.
Pretty good juice.
Yeah. I usually start up in the morning, either that or I'll do half that, and then I'll do some intermittent fasting, which I love to do.
Oh yeah, that's great.
And I'll do that in the morning, and then I'll probably start my first juice around like 1 o'clock.
Okay.
So
that's great.
yeah, if you are going to get a juicer again, I would go with Breville.
Breville. Okay, cool. I have a couple Breville things downstairs. I got the water heater thing for tea and stuff.
Oh yeah, right on.
Like an oven, one of their ovens. So yeah.
So we're almost wrapping up here. It's 3 o'clock. We already went for 40 minutes. Okay. So thanks for the time. But what's your first big thing you guys are going to do when you feel that everything is 100% to in your eyes back to normal? What do you think is going to be the one thing you're looking forward to the most?
So I already kind of did the one thing I was looking forward to most last weekend, which was go to the beach. So I went to the beach with some friends, didn't bring an umbrella. It was that perfect weather to get the worst sunburn of your life. It's a little hazy, good breeze. You don't even know you're frying. You get home and my whole back and shoulders are just red. So perfect. I'm peeling, so I won't lift my shoulder, my shirt up because it's nasty, but I'm in snake mode right now. So we're actually going to the beach tomorrow too with same friends, because we're like, that was so much fun. Let's do that again.
Nice.
So it's easy to keep distance on the beach too. We're bringing a tent too, so we'll just stake that out there. And
Tight.
we're talking when we were out there. Is like, it's crazy that they shut down the beaches. We get that there needs to be space and people need to respect social distancing, and that was part of the problem and why they shut it down. But it's also like, if we can have some disciplines, like having those, those negative ions and the fresh air, like that's really, really good for your immune system, and the sunlight. So
Absolutely.
we're out there like having, just feeling good. And then, so kind of already did that. But one thing that's been on my mind, and I don't know how this will work out or if I'll even get around to it, but the thought that Disney's saying that they're going to open at like 25% or 50% at some point. My mind went, wow, 50% less people in the lines. And I'm thinking there's so many rides I could do in one day. And there's not going to be a lot of international travel into Disney. So Disney itself is already going to be like probably fueled by local people. So it's going to be even less busy. So in kind of a humorous way, I'm keeping an eye on when Disney opens, because there's a couple parks that I really enjoy, and I think it'd be a lot of fun to go, like Animal Kingdom,
Sure.
but at 50% capacity. That'd be a pretty good time.
Did you see Shanghai just opened theirs?
Oh, okay. So I haven't seen that.
Yeah, so check out the photos because it's pretty interesting. It says before the pandemic, and the lines are, obviously outrageous and it's crowded, yada. But then after this pandemic, I think they released it like this week they opened or something, but everyone's 6 feet apart. So there's stickers. So the lines, they're actually longer.
Oh, okay.
But there's less people, but it
less,
so it'd be interesting when we go, because we're big theme park nuts too. She's a Disney fanatic, my wife, so we get tickets all the time. But when we go, it'd be interesting to see how they have the lines, because I don't know what's more exciting, having a lot of people there in a shorter time you have to like walk, or if it's going to be spread out so much that it's going to look too long and I'm going to be like, I'm not going to wait that line. So I don't know.
The really long lines. I think we'll have to just like kind of like change it. All right, like the line isn't as long as it seems. It's okay.
That's right. Just keep saying yourself 50% people, 50%.
Right.
People.
There's 50% less. Just like there's five people worth in between there that are not there.
That's right. All right, cool. Hey, well, whatever it is, man, if you guys make it to the theme parks, or, if you go to the beach, be safe. And, thank you so much for hopping on the show. I definitely want to have, Kayla's next, just so you know.
Okay. She'll have a blast here with you. Cool. That's cool, man.
But either way, man, this was fun. Thanks so much for the time, Nick. And
my pleasure.
And we'll definitely talk soon, man.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
All right, brother. See you, man.
All right. See you later.